of a week work type of situation, it's the last day of your work week. You maybe get a weekend off. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. Maybe you have an odd type of weekend. It's like a Tuesday and a Wednesday. Man, it sucks, doesn't it? Still, though, days off are days off. Glad you guys are here. I got a few minutes to chat to you guys in the chat beforehand. I appreciate all the regulars, the Dexter Wongs of the world, the Darlenes of the world, the Naomis of the world, the Bessie Jacksons of the world. I appreciate you every day. You know how that whole thing works. I got to get rid of these ads that are popping up in my face so I can see what you guys are talking about. Also, did want to highlight one thing, considering this is an international watch party. Sweden Dragon, I appreciate you. First of all, I appreciate you for the super chat, but also in that super chat, there apparently was a PSA given to folks who don't, reside in this United States of America under this dictatorial president. And they said, to my fellow Europeans, Sweden Dragon says, the U.S. goes into daylight savings this week, which means the next week's shows starts 1 hour earlier just for you guys. I would have never thought of it. Would have never considered it. But I always look forward to daylight savings time on the spring side of things because I hate 5 o'clock nighttime. It's the most depressing thing that I can even imagine. It already gets dark enough early naturally in our world, but we shoot it up even more so. So as we usher into more evening daylight, that's what summer feels like, bro. That's what summer feels like. But there is also normal, depressing news, more news that we need to be aware of so we can fight back more against this fascist regime that's in the White House and controlling every aspect of our lives more and more every day, man. So let's, first of all, oh man, I almost forgot. I got this energy drink in front of me. It's Friday. It's Friday. And Dexter, I apologize. Your water is great. It's what you should be drinking, especially since I got some myself. This stuff will mess you up. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started, you guys. There's lots to talk about as usual, and I feel like I step on myself at times because I just like to chat. And I ramble. You guys know how this operates if you've been around this network long enough. But let's go ahead and get started then, since I did promise all of this that's going on. But as I mentioned in the title for today's Here Party, we're at war. That affects a lot of things, but also what it also affects is people forgetting exactly all the other problems that this administration is inflicting on us. And it's somehow connected. It always is, right? Let's go to what's going on with our economy. It's been a minute since we talked about that, but it doesn't mean that it hasn't still been devastating. Matter of fact, let's find out what's been going on.
Are there enough asterisks in Jim's words to make this number make more sense?
Well, I think, Jim's right that there have been so many strong indicators this month that it's something of a surprise, but there's some weather, there are strikes on the West Coast, and I think that we also have this birth-death model, the change in the procedure at the BLS. And so I think what we need to start doing with these jobs numbers, at least on the payroll side, is take the average over a few months. And if you take the average over a few months, we had a surprisingly positive one last month and a surprisingly negative one this one. But on average, it's about what we expect to be seeing because immigration has gone down by so much that break-even employment is probably in the sort of 30 or 40,000 jobs a month range. And so, yeah, I think it's consistent with everything else we're seeing, which is that the economy is really strong. And the headline for me is something that I'm sure you guys probably already noticed, is that productivity is about the highest we've ever seen. And manufacturing wages are up year over year by $2,400 now. And so what we're seeing is a productivity boom, which is consistent with the strong output. And you can have strong output and not really, magnificent job growth if there's a big gain in productivity.
Kevin Hassett is telling, lies again. Kevin Hassett is droning on about this economy. What is it that he's droning on about and obviously lying over right now? You won't be surprised to hear. Once Kevin Hassett gets in front of a microphone, gets in front of an interview and starts rambling on with bullshit lies, there's a reason behind it. This is the reason.
The U.S. economy unexpectedly lost 92,000 jobs last month.
Non-farm payrolls, minus 92,000, minus 92,000. That is a biggie.
We have a negative number for February non-farm payrolls, a loss of 92,000 jobs.
Manufacturing, which has been a focus of the president's, lost jobs in February as well.
A loss of factory jobs of 12,000, private sector jobs, a loss of 86,000.
Now, the other disappointing news is that December was significantly revised lower as well. Previously, it was reported as a modest gain. Now, look at this. It's a loss. That means 2 out of the last 3 months, the U.S. economy lost jobs. Now,
We are also seeing the unemployment rate tick up to 4.4%.
this was a disappointing jobs report. Let's keep in mind, this was before the energy price shock that we are now living through because of the war.
Oh, we're going to get to the war, but not only are February jobs numbers, as it was identified by all those different entities, bad, loss of 92,000, but also there was a moment when they pointed out December was actually worse than even we expected at that point too. I want to remind you guys of something. Since we're talking February, it's February of 2026. For anybody that's been asleep for a while, it's February of 2026. And Howard Lutnick, back last year in 2025, had a couple of declarations about what would happen in 2026. I want to remind you guys of this.
It announces in the fourth quarter of 2025, this economy is going to be humming.
Okay.
Look for the second quarter of 2026 to be amazing as all this money.
Okay, the Donald Trump economy, we own the economy in the fourth quarter. We start to get, we get shovels in the ground. I would say the first quarter of next year will be the best quarter. Job after job after factory after factory. They're coming, and they're coming now. So I would say 1 year from today, you are going to see job numbers in the second half of next year that are going to blow you away. And I would say the first quarter of next year will be the best quarter. The golden age of America, it's coming now. You feel it now.
What's going on?
So the economy that Donald Trump owns starts at the end of this year. You can't think of the employment. You look at next year's employment, it is going to explode. All these factories were
Job after job, factory after factory. This Donald Trump economy starts at the end of 2025, Howard Lutnick said. He said that right before he then said it starts at the beginning of 2026, the second quarter of 2026, the third quarter of 2026, the next 4 years of this guy's shit presidency. Somehow Howard Lutnick is always talking about how great and wonderful things are, but instead what we can understand is that he's a liar. Not only about this, but also apparently his time on Epstein Island. Let's not forget that. Have we heard from Howard Lutnick at any time recently? I'm just curious. I want to give you guys a couple more details outside of that quick mashup of the 92,000 losses of jobs, but I'm going to reiterate it so we don't forget it. The U.S. economy lost those jobs in February, a month marred by severe winter weather. That was another excuse that Kevin Hassett tried to toss our way. And a strike at a major healthcare provider. That's what the Bureau of Labor Statistics reported. That same Bureau of Labor Statistics where they fired the commissioner of it because they were cooking the numbers against Donald Trump. Anyways, non-farm payrolls fell by 92,000 for the month compared to the estimate for 50,000 and below the downwardly revised January total of 126. February marked the third time in the past 5 months that payrolls declined, following a sharp revision following that drop of 17,000 in December that I was just pointing out. Hold on a second. That report said from CNBC, said they were expecting, the estimate was for 50,000 to be lost in February. They already expected to lose jobs. And in fact, it increased that by 42,000, even more than that. Were we supposed to be happy even if it got to the estimate projection of losing 50,000 jobs? Here's more. Talking about those healthcare issues. Healthcare, the primary growth driver in payrolls, saw a loss of 28,000. Due largely to that strike that they point out, Kaiser Permanente, where it sidelined more than 30,000 workers in Hawaii and California. Though the strike has never been resolved, it occurred during the BLS survey week, so it's subtracted from the jobs total. I feel like the strike could be an issue, but the bigger issue just might be, the pedophile in the White House. More. Information services, a sector hit by artificial intelligence related cuts, also lost jobs, down 11,000 as part of a 12-month trend where the sector has lost an average of 5,000 a month. Manufacturing, the stuff that Howard Lutnick was just talking about, will be booming at the beginning of 26, saw a loss of 12,000 despite tariffs aimed at reshoring jobs overseas. Why are they even bringing up tariffs as if that declaration was going to actually do something? Please. So while we're dealing with these job losses, while we're dealing with the revelations of Howard Lutnick and Kevin Hassett and Scott Bessent and Donald Trump and all these, great minds along the economy lying to us for the past year. And now we're still seeing the same results, if not worse, going on. And now what maybe, I'm not sure if we can call it yet Trump's economy, maybe even by Howard Lutnick's standards, it's Trump's economy. What's been going on for the past year is, as we've seen the writing on the wall, as prices were raised, as payroll was going down, as jobs were lost, we saw all this happening. This is not brand new. Every time it was brought up, things like this would be the answer from this president of the United States. Do you guys remember this?
They're all something, but this one chart really says it better than anything. If you look at this is great, but this chart is pretty amazing right here. All new numbers. Okay. They're all.
No, actually, no, not okay. What the hell does that mean? Do you guys remember that? It's happened during last year, during one of his bad jobs numbers, and he pulls out some new chart. I'm not sure if he, grabbed a Sharpie beforehand, but nobody cares what your numbers mean when you're projecting something that's based off of propaganda. The reason I bring that last part up, when it comes to how he was delaying and lying, everything that they've said, every time Howard Lutnick was on TV and Hassett was talking all this, it was to keep us from getting to the point that I think we should have been at, like in June of last year. It's about time we start moving towards impeachment. Every politician should be answering questions of why they have not been a part of starting impeachment procedures towards this president. Like everything. I'm going to get deeper into reasons why. There's nothing about this presidency that has anything to do with helping the United States of America. As a matter of fact, he's pillaging this country for his own gain and for the destruction of all the people here. It's what he's doing. Everything that they said they were up to, they're doing the opposite. As a matter of fact, they're doing it worse. They're destroying this country. It's on purpose. He doesn't work for any of these people who voted him in. He works for foreign entities and interests that have paid him off, scratched his chin and said, destroy this country. He's a traitor. Have we figured that part out yet? Let me help you in case anyone hasn't figured that part out yet. So as I pointed out, the economy sucks. We started this war just last weekend in Iran that they keep talking about. More bloodshed is happening. We should be jazzed up about it. But I was thinking this, and I kept looking at local gas prices. And I said, you know what? I feel like this is going to change too. Dana Bash over at CNN was speaking this morning on the network and talked about her conversation with Donald Trump about those gas prices.
Region. I asked about rising gas prices. And he said, that's all right. It'll be short term. It'll go way down very quickly. And I said, well, they're pretty high now. And he said, no, they're not. They're up a little bit, not much, but it'll drop to record lows. And so I asked, well, does this mean that you're going to figure out the Strait of Hormuz soon? Again, something you were just talking about. He said, quote, it's already figured out. We've knocked their Navy because, when you knock out the Navy, they can't do what they wanted to be able to do. The Navy is almost, he said, we just hit the 25 mark. Can you imagine that? Big ones. 25 ships are down. We're doing very well. And region.
He doesn't believe anything. I mean, he believes it, but that's his denial process. But also the answer to everything from this president is more murder, more killing, more destruction. Somehow, blowing up as many, ships, Iranian ships as possible would lead him to believe that that's going to do anything about gas prices because he's stupid. And on top of that, he doesn't care. Let me prove it to you how much he doesn't care. Because again, he said to Dana Bash, I don't even believe it. That's not really happening. There was another post from Javier Blas. He said, U.S. gasoline retail prices are now higher than at any point since Donald Trump has been president, including both the first and the second term. AAA data puts U.S. nationwide average at $3.32 a gallon. The White House will start to feel political pressure above $3.50. Sure. Feeling political pressure doesn't mean anything to fascists. I don't know why so many pundits, reporters, talkers, podcasters don't understand saying that Donald Trump sucks at this, proving that Donald Trump sucks at this, proving that he's out to destroy this country doesn't mean anything. Why would he care? He's told us that so many times. As a matter of fact, let me show you what he says. Trump to Reuters on those rising gas prices. Here's a quote. I don't have any concern about it. They'll drop very rapidly when this is over. And if they rise, they rise. But it's far more important than having gasoline price go up a little bit. And they haven't even risen very much, he says. She points out again that AAA has the national gas average up 27 cents on average. So do you figure maybe next week Donald Trump's going to get back in front of a microphone if someone asks him this question, because he's too busy killing people? If they're going to ask him, then, yo, what happened to the, under $2 a gallon of gas that you just talked about, that all the people that follow you behind were just talking about? Remember that? Because look how quickly things shift. The economy sucks further. He started a war, spending more of our money, trillions of dollars. And now, in response to gas prices that he brags about, which he shouldn't have been bragging about in the first place, he says, I don't care. It leads to people like Representative Mark Alford to repeat it because he's a wart on Donald Trump's anus.
I think we all know that when you have a kinetic conflict like this, whether you want to call it a war or not, we are putting energy, resources, money into this. It is going to take a little bit of a sacrifice on the part of Americans. There is a political component to this. We have the midterms coming up. The Democrats have tried to make it about affordability. That will certainly play into that. But I think the average American in my district understands the need that we decapitate this terrorist regime and make sure it never grows ahead again.
And Congress.
Which ones of Mark Alford's constituents believe and agree with him of that random declaration that he made, as if he's talking to anyone, that they understand Americans need to sacrifice for Donald Trump's decisions that lead nowhere in this Iran war except for what he feels is glory reigning over blood spilling into the streets? What is it about that? Who has he spoken to? Because you know what? That's the same Representative Mark Alford who did try to speak to constituents last year during a town hall, during that wave of Republicans going to town halls back home and getting lambasted, getting challenged, being called names, being told, I'm your constituent, I didn't vote for this. But he's going to take his ass on News Nation and say that he's talked to constituents who understand. They're willing to pay more for gas prices. They're willing to pay more for gas prices while they lose their jobs. They're willing to pay for more for gas prices while they lose any kinds of government subsidies for healthcare. They're willing to do all these things because Mark Alford just simply said so. Let me give you the back end of how this all shapes up. This bad economy, these declarations of who gives a damn. Thomas Massey spoke about the cost of this war and how it affects everything here back at home.
It's just more money that mostly goes straight to military industrial complex. And then that's the problem that you get into. You can't, when you put your troops out there, it's hard not to fund them. But this should have been authorized by Congress to start.
There's reports that the war is costing $1 billion a day.
It's at least costing $1 billion a day. You can count the missiles in the video. People back home, they're already feeling it in gas prices, and then they're going to feel it in grocery prices and eventually housing prices and interest rates as our debt goes up. We spent $8 trillion in the Middle East already. This thing could get into $1 trillion real quick, and that goes straight to our debt. So it's bad financially, but it's also, I just don't think we have clear policy. After we obliterate the Iranian government and the Iranian military, then what? What do you do after that? I don't think we're going to be successful at nation building.
None of it is good news. Like, none of it. So if you guys prepared to spend $1 trillion upcoming for this war with no end in sight, even though they keep saying we're way ahead, we're ahead of schedule, we're bombing more Iranian naval ships, we're destroying everything, we're killing children, we're blowing up more civilian areas, all these things are happening, but we're supposed to be celebrating it because they're savage individuals. They're vicious, bloodthirsty murderers. That's what fascists are, in case we forgot. So I guess we should be enjoying that economy that apparently kicks in at the beginning of 2026. I feel like maybe this is one of the biggest distractions, deadly, expensive, horrible distractions to keep us from talking about new revelations about this guy in the White House and the things that we're discovering about his buddy relationship and probably co-conspirator relationship with Jeffrey Epstein, which actually brings me to this story. Let's go here.
To count 1 of life in prison, as to count 2, 15 years, Florida Department of Corrections, as to count 3, 5 years, Florida Department of Corrections, as to count 4, 15 years, Florida Department of Corrections, as to count 5, 15 years, Florida Department of Corrections, and as to count 6, you were found not guilty. And the court finds that you qualify as a sexual predator, and I'm going to designate you as such. I love you, Seth. Sorry, Dad. I'm sorry, Dad.
That's a convicted child sex predator. He just got convicted to life in prison. Crazy how that works. This is where I guess the unsurprising part comes in. He's a January 6er who invaded the Capitol at the behest of Donald Trump. Just months after Trump's mass pardons for January 6 rioters freed him from prison, that Florida man repeatedly sexually abused 2 middle school aged children. And the reasons for his arrest, his conviction, and now his sentencing that's going to send his ass to jail again for the rest of his life. But the things he did was after he was given that pardon by this president, who has a long track record apparently for protecting pedophiles. Here's information. This guy's name is Andrew Paul Johnson. And as I was pointing out, he's sentenced to life in prison after they found him guilty of 5 criminal charges, including molestation, lewd and lascivious exhibition, and transmission of material harmful to a minor. Police reported that Johnson, who's 45 years old, tried to keep the children quiet by telling them he would share, listen to this, millions of dollars in restitution money that he expected to receive from Donald Trump in connection to his January 6th case. He told one of those victims not to tell anybody so he can share with him his millions. The reason he thought he was going to get millions, which he probably didn't, was because Donald Trump said, if you're a criminal, especially if you're a pedophile, I'll do anything for you. Both of Johnson's young victims, a young boy and a young girl, testified at his trial where they described how Johnson used his role as a trusted, quote, father figure to subject them to physical, sexual abuse and explicit messages. Johnson, this is where the story gets even more disgusting. Johnson first came into the picture in 2023. 2023, don't forget, January 6th was in 2021. After the boy's mother met him at a political rally. The mother, who was raising 2 boys alone, let Johnson stay on the couch in her house because he's a winner. Because everyone that's in MAGA is a winner. Everyone that's in MAGA and is a follower of Donald Trump is a winner, and they call everyone else losers. But this guy had to find a woman at a MAGA rally and then stay on her couch. That is before he started doing horrible things to her children. She testified that she believed Johnson, who worked as a handyman, could help fix things around the house. By that point, Johnson had already been charged for his role in that Capitol attack, but his case was still working its way through the courts. On the political right, riot defendants like Johnson were widely portrayed as victims, hostages, and political prisoners. So maybe that was his pitch. Maybe that was his in to get onto her couch and watch her TV and flip around through Netflix all the time. A couple details about what he did without too many graphic details. Here's a quote from the victim. He said not to tell anybody, and then his mother remained unaware of that abuse. And in April of 2024, Johnson returned to federal court in D.C., where he pleaded guilty to multiple nonviolent charges for breaching the Capitol. Later that August, he was sentenced to a year in prison, followed by a year of supervised release. But in January of 25, just a few months after Johnson began his sentence, Trump took office and pardoned virtually every January 6th defendant, including this pedophile. I want to remind you guys of what we just went through. This guy has now been sentenced to life in prison for assaulting 2 young kids. One being the son of, I guess, his girlfriend, who invited him into her house after meeting at a MAGA rally. And then after he was released from prison, this is what he posted over on X. Man, the guy was excited, man. He was amped up about his buddy Donald Trump releasing him from, his crimes. He says the hashtag was J6 pardons, free at last. Thank you, Trump. We all never lost faith you would do the right thing. And I thank you, too, all the supporters and advocates that never gave up on us. Here's a couple pictures that he posted of himself. Man, he was really jazzed and happy about this situation. Let me see if this expands a little bit. Oh, he's back home with family. Look how great that is. Here's another one. Celebrating all in their prison garb as they get out. And there he is in the car, rolling with the friends, is celebrating all of their good fortune from Donald Trump releasing him from prison. Oh, here's another one. Look, throwing up peace signs. Oh, here's his buddy on the other side of the car throwing up some white power signs. It's almost like all of these white supremacists are also child sex predators as well. Look, here's a couple people who responded to it. Great crew right there. Free and pardoned. Welcome home, hero, they say. Another one says, believe it or not, Trump supported all of you all along, even during his last presidency. They were celebrating in the comments for a child sex predator to then be released. So after he was released, back to the story. Soon after his release, Johnson started posting online that he expected to receive restitution money from the Trump administration. I don't know where he pulled that out, maybe out of his ass. He also re-entered the lives of the boy and his mother. The sexual abuse resumed as well. He went right back to abusing this kid. The boy testified that Johnson used the online gaming system Roblox and the messaging platform Discord to send him messages, some of which were sexual. Johnson invited both the boy and the boy's best friend, a 12-year-old girl, to play paintball and visit a trampoline park and hotel swimming pools. Both children testified that Johnson exposed himself to them on multiple occasions, made explicit sexual comments, and also sexually abused the girl. He also sexually abused the boy too. He woke up in the middle of the night to him doing so multiple times, and then was told to be quiet, told he would give him money, told that all these things, you have to stay quiet, to your mother and his friend, who someone else's child ended up at his house where he assaulted her too. So I wonder, I'm curious, if the next time Donald Trump stands in front of a podium, will someone ask him, are you okay with the fact that your guy that you released and you celebrated and continue to say we're all victims and we're railroaded by the system, that they're all free and innocent? Are you okay with the fact that now he's been convicted yet again of child sex assault and then was sent to prison for the rest of his life? Do you have a lack of judgment, Donald Trump? Do you openly support pedophiles at every level, all the way from the Epstein files down to this random nobody in the middle of the country? How much do you love pedophiles? Is it because you relate to them? This news tells us that Donald Trump does relate to them. The Justice Department released several FBI documents on Thursday describing interviews with a woman who accused Trump of sexually assaulting her as a minor. This is that story that's been swirling around of the information that they decided to keep from us, openly and blatantly decided to keep from us. 1 out of 4 interviews was the only things that were in these files because as a 12 to 13-year-old girl, she had stories to tell that was documented, that's now been hidden in these files. Sorry for the grim details, but I've got a couple more. The interview report states that during one encounter, Trump allegedly told people in the room to leave. And he said words to the effect of, let me teach you little girls, let me teach you how little girls are supposed to be. That's the president of the United States. The report then records the witness describing Trump unzipping his pants and directing her head towards his genitals. She told investigators that she bit him, at which point Trump allegedly struck her and said words to the effect of, get this little bitch the hell out of here. The witness also told agents that the interaction ended when other people re-entered the room. Elsewhere in the interview, the witness recalled Trump and Epstein using terms like fresh meat, untainted, and not jaded when referring to these little girls. I don't think it was a mistake that he released pedophiles into the streets. I feel like he was excited about it. More from these reports that we're just getting more information on that they were blatantly hiding. She also indicated that she thought Trump knew Epstein blackmailed people, heard him discussing washing money through casinos, and that Trump's favorite number was 6. She also describes an impression that she had that rings true of anyone who knows anything about Trump, and this was very, very indicative of him. She said that Trump seemed jealous of Epstein. We've heard the stories of the fights that Donald Trump and Jeffrey Epstein had over which little children they'd be assaulting, or which girls that they'd have in rooms and hidden from everyone else, that who got to them first. I'm going to refer back to what I think should be asked of every politician, Democrat, Republican, and independent, every time they say anything from the economy to education to the war to healthcare. Ask them, what point are you going to start impeachment proceedings? At what point is that going to start? Because while this is all happening, while we're getting these revelations that aren't revelations at all to me, this is what his former personal attorney, who lost those cases, when he was convicted of all those felonies, when he went on TV and tried to excuse this stuff or act like they weren't covering for him.
Today marks the deadline for the DOJ to make the Epstein files public.
We're going to release several 100,000 documents today. I expect that we're going to release more documents over the next couple of weeks. So today, several 100,000. And then over the next couple of weeks, I expect several 100,000 more. There's a lot of eyes looking at these, and we want to make sure that when we do produce the materials we're producing, that we're protecting every single victim.
That was on December 19th. The deadline for when they were supposed to release these files that they hid many away from us. The reason that they hid so many away from us is because of those details that I just read about these accusations from a 12, 13-year-old girl who talked about what he did to her, what he said about her, what he and Jeffrey Epstein, who was his best friend, said and did to them. Let's go back to Todd Blanche, because again, they're declaring that they weren't hiding things. That is until they released all the things that they were hiding. And during that time frame, he was getting all bristly.
Will there be more releases?
I mean, look, first of all, we took great pains, as I explained on Friday, to make sure that we protected victims.
Will more documents be released?
We have released, there are a small number of documents, as I said on Friday, that we're waiting for a judge to say we're allowed to release because of a protective order. But this review is over. I mean, we reviewed over 6 million pieces of paper, thousands of videos, tens of thousands of images, and which is what the statute required us to do. We have nothing to hide. We have nothing to hide. We never did.
The problem with your personal attorney, who's turned the assistant AG, is that when he has to keep going on ABC News and say, we have nothing to hide, we have nothing to hide, we have nothing to hide, it doesn't look very good. But the problem is with this country is we don't care anymore whether or not that looks good or whether or not there's been a part of covering up the sexual assault of little children. Because even though he said that, this is what the Wall Street Journal found out. After analyzing the DOJ's public Epstein database, the paper identified tens of thousands of files that appeared to be missing. And when reporters pressed the DOJ about the discrepancy, the spokeswoman confirmed that 47,635 documents were being held offline for further review. What were they reviewing, you might ask? The department hadn't previously volunteered that information and confirmed it only after being asked directly about that gap in information. So why would they, as Todd Blanche say this review is over? And why would he also say we're going to slowly get all the information out? We're just going through more reviews. That detail that changes the nature of the story entirely is more specific than the aggregate count. The Wall Street Journal reported that the Justice Department released one FBI interview summary from that woman that alleged Jeffrey Epstein abused her as a minor while withholding 3 additional interview summaries from that same witness. And those documents that were withheld are the ones where she discussed Donald Trump. I mean, come on, man. It's spelled out in front of us. They delayed, they distracted, they said it wasn't happening. And when we discovered it was happening, they said, well, what are you guys talking about? We're still reviewing it. And then after they released it, we discovered the reasons why they were holding these things close to their chest. As usual, that's how this administration works. So the last bit of incriminating previous to us discovering all this information that came out from Todd Blanche, who should be brought up on criminal charges because he's a part of this criminal administration that's a part of protecting pedophiles. It's to this moment right now to protect Donald Trump from the accusations and investigations that they never had from these accusations. This was his claim about what they're not doing. And even though we just saw what it is that they're doing.
My team has certain communications with the White House. Let me just be clear. They had nothing to do with this review. They had no oversight over this review. They did not tell this department how to do our review, what to look for, what to redact, what to not redact. There's this mantra out there that, the Department of Justice is supposed to protect Donald J. Trump. And that's what we were telling. That's not true. That was never the case. We are always concerned about the victims. We did not protect President Trump. We didn't protect or not protect anybody.
That I feel like Maury Povich, that was a lie. We're looking at it. We see it in front of our faces. I guess the last question is when and what are we going to do about this? When do the impeachment proceedings begin? When do they finally introduce articles of impeachment for what, the 6th time on this guy? Actually, it's like the 3rd time. I just, maybe it should have been 6 times by now, but we got cowardly people in Congress that literally are afraid of this child sex accused child sex predator who, pardoned multiple criminals who, one of which we know right there did the same thing. Weird how that works. Really fast. If you guys like the stream yet, maybe it's kind of dark news for a Friday, but still it's information. It's stuff I didn't want to have to talk about, but I figure at this point we need to reset and understand what it is that's being covered up, what's being avoided, the discussions that our major networks aren't really able to have now, since we have this big story about fighting this war in Iran that has no end in sight, that is spending trillions of dollars, that is raising gas prices, that's destroying our economy, to which the president says I don't care. Is that what he ran on? Did he run on, I'm going to start wars in Iran, and after it destroys everything, I'm going to say, I don't care? I feel like that's what everyone said. He ran on something other than that. So I hope you guys, hang out a little bit longer. I got a couple more things to get through. I think I can get these out in the next 20 minutes. I feel like I'm going at like 1,000 miles an hour because there's so much happening. I hate going over, but sometimes it's just the way it is. But at least, there's a little bit of good news. There's a glimpse. I wouldn't call it totally good news, but I'm sure you guys heard about it, which is why I saved it for the back end of this hour. I'm sure you guys heard about it, but let's go ahead and make it happen.
President Trump ousting perhaps the most divisive member of his cabinet, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem, who led his immigration enforcement crackdown. The president abruptly announcing her firing on social media, writing, "I thank Kristi for her service at Homeland," saying she had numerous and spectacular results, especially on the border. Moments later, this awkward split screen.
Thank you for coming to this conference.
Noem on stage at a law enforcement conference, but never mentioning her firing. A top administration official tells NBC News President Trump already frustrated by a series of Noem's high-profile controversies. This week was infuriated by her testimony before lawmakers, where she was repeatedly pressed on her role securing a $220 million border security ad campaign that featured her prominently.
So as you probably heard, Kristi Noem is out. She's been relegated to some other made-up position, which I'm going to get to in a second. But the story behind this, I think, is all the swirling reasons behind it. What people are trying to say is the reason, even up to Donald Trump saying the reason why Kristi Noem is gone. And I feel like many people want to say that it was, for a reason that actually protects people. Come on, man. This is what Donald Trump posted to, I guess, push that bad point. He says, "I'm pleased to announce that the highly respected United States Senator from the great state of Oklahoma, Markwayne Mullin, will become the United States Secretary of Homeland Security, effective March 31st. The current Secretary, Kristi Noem, who served us well and has had numerous and spectacular results, especially at the border, will be moving to be special envoy to the Shield of the Americas, our brand new security initiative in the Western Hemisphere. We're announcing it on Saturday in Doral, Florida. He says, I thank Kristi for her service at Homeland. Why does it have to put everything in quotes when you just say DHS? Whatever. You notice he started that whole announcement talking about who was replacing Kristi Noem, not leading with the fact that he's, getting rid of Kristi Noem and relegating her to a made-up position. And as with most Trumpers, especially people who work for him and then, land on the sword every time, literally, you just got your ass fired. Probably found out while you were at some kind of press conference or through social media posts. And Kristi Noem's response was, thank you. This guy said, you're fired. And she says, thank you, President Trump, for appointing me as the special envoy for the Shield of the Americas. Marco Rubio and the Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, are incredible leaders, and I look forward to working with them closely to dismantle cartels that have poured drugs into our nation and killed our children and grandchildren. The Western Hemisphere is absolutely critical for U.S. security. In this new role, I'll be able to build on the partnerships and national security expertise I forged over the last 13 months. You get fired and you go, thank you. Thank you for putting me in this crap position that you just made up. Her alleged boyfriend, Corey Lewandowski, is also apparently on his way out too, because both of these folks were running this into the ground, taking money, feeding it to whatever kind of entities that they would like to have been feeding it to, and happily belly laughing all the way to the bank. But you know what? This is, I think, where it gets a little bit sticky, a little bit more dicey for them. And if we have Congress people who are willing to follow up and do their job, this can be exposed further. Reuters reported that Trump told Reuters on Thursday that he did not sign off on that $220 million border security advertising campaign that featured Kristi Noem, who I just talked about yesterday, where she faced that bipartisan criticism over those commercials where she's riding that horse near Mount Rushmore. And she took that $220 million with no bid contracts and gave it to herself and her buddies' companies. And this is what Donald Trump said. I never knew anything about it. Some people are saying that the reasons why Kristi Noem is out is because of the bad news when it was surrounding Minnesota and their assaults on people and their murders of folks in the streets. But the weird thing is this all happened after she had that back and forth with Senator John Kennedy, where he asked her specifically, this $220 million ad campaign that featured you and you took all that money, Donald Trump knew anything about this? She said, yes. Yes, he did. And Donald Trump is now denying it after he just relegated her to a no-name position, which brought up a really good point. Reuters reported that this guy, Bill Milligan, pointed out something that it didn't even cross my mind. She said this to Congress under oath. And he pointed out that she testified in the Senate this week that President Trump approved of and was aware of that $200 million ad campaign. Trump told him he didn't. Now, the Tennessee Holler at the bottom here said, lying to Congress can lead to serious legal consequences. So if you lie to Congress under oath, there should be some legal consequences afterwards. So if Kristi Noem to Congress said Donald Trump knew of and approved of the $220 million that her corrupt ass was taking and pocketing and giving to her friends, and he denies it, somebody is lying. Someone is lying. Maybe that's the reason why they don't want to get Donald Trump in front of Congress to then lie to them as well, too, because there's going to be some legal consequences for it. Kash Patel lied to Congress over the Epstein files. Pam Bondi lied to Congress over the Epstein files. When is anything legal? When is anything that's based off of law and order ever going to be taken care of in this country? When is it going to finally happen? Kristi Noem's just the latest one that lied to Congress, and apparently there's zero consequences for it. Did she lie or did she lie? Because I feel like she just might have been telling the truth, and the whole reason Donald Trump did this is because now he was fingered by Kristi Noem as being the guy who approved of this corruption. And you know what? When you think about it, that makes way more sense than him saying, I didn't know anything about it. Not at all. So now that Kristi Noem is gone, this was a discussion on Fox News with Laura Ingraham.
I have a source who has told me that when the White House heard about the shooting of Alex Preety, they were informed by Department of Homeland Security officials that it was an attempted assassination. It was a would-be murder. And the White House used language that reflected what they were told by Homeland Security. And then they saw the video and they felt they got bad information from Homeland Security, and they echoed that bad information. So in a backgrounder today, one of the White House officials said one of the reasons they let her go was because of what happened in Minnesota, and that put a fine point on what happened. They didn't trust the information they were getting from Homeland Security.
Well, then why didn't they fire her right away? Because that would have just given a scalp to those who are actually trying to hinder and impede ICE on the streets, or why drag this out?
Well, because I think the president is reluctant to let people go, and especially on his singular issue.
Laura Ingraham there accidentally asked a good follow-up question. Sometimes they fall their way into a good question because they still believe the bullshit that their guests spew. She said, why didn't Donald Trump fire her right after all the debacle that was going on in Minnesota with the murder of Alex Preety, Renee Good, and all the bad information that they received from people on the ground straight to Kristi Noem, who was in another state, saying that they were all domestic terrorists? If that was the straw that broke the camel's back, why didn't it break the camel's back that day, or 2 days later, or a week later, after you get the information that they then backed up and then said the same thing? They never went afterwards and said, you know what, Kristi Noem lied to us, and we regret these accusations. Stephen Miller didn't go back on TV and start screaming about how he was wrong in saying these folks were domestic terrorists. I'm not sure if you guys know this online social media user, JoJo from Jers. She's fun. I feel like she gave a way better answer than what Laura Ingram's guest gave. Trump didn't fire Kristi Noem because she failed to respond to the floods in Texas, which claimed the lives of at least 100 people. He didn't fire her because Americans were murdered by their rabbit-masked goons. He didn't fire her for posing for pictures in front of human beings in cages like they were livestock. He did not fire her for racially profiling Latinos, African Americans, Arab Americans, and Asian Americans. He didn't fire her because she was arresting legal permanent residents and U.S. citizens and detaining them illegally. He didn't fire her because she was keeping children in fetid, rancid concentration camps without access to clean water, fresh food, or medical care. He didn't fire her for turning our cities into militarized war zones. He fired her because she made him look bad. That was his red line. None of that other stuff ever mattered. He was incensed after she told John Kennedy he approved of this corruption. And he said, that's it. You can murder people. You can put people in cages. You can violate people's rights. You can violate the Constitution. You can take money. But as long as you don't tell people that I was a part of it and I was okay with it. That was his line. I don't think we should forget that. I really don't think we should forget that. So, like I said, this news of Kristi Noem being fired and demoted to a non-position, I guess it's bittersweet. Some people are celebrating it. That is until they find out that this really, really bad situation just happened. Markwayne Mullin, as I pointed out yesterday, probably one of the dumbest people in the Senate. Markwayne Mullin has been tapped to take her position.
Here we go.
No, the president, I still got to communicate, so we'll talk about it moving forward. But I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, the president and I have already talked. Obviously, the statement went out, but we need to talk to the president, and we're going to get on the same page and do what we need to do.
Do you want to make changes at DHS? When did you find out, sir?
A little bit before you guys did.
Do you want the job?
Any changes?
Senator, did you expect this?
Let me, guys, I'll talk to y'all more. Let me go.
Do you want the job, Senator?
Senator Markwayne Mullin appears to be in way over his head. Donald Trump, if you listen to Markwayne Mullin, just told him right before I guess the firing of Kristi Noem, that he's going to be asking him to go through the confirmation process to be the next DHS secretary. And man, he couldn't get away from those cameras fast enough. Because any questions about what he's supposed to do, what he's going to do, how soon he found out, if he's excited for this role, he did not want to answer. I feel like because he's in way over his head. Everywhere he went, he was surrounded by reporters asking him similar questions, and he kept coming up with similar answers like,
Just like a really initial question. I mean, there's so many things that's happening within DHS. What would be your main objective or goal?
We got, we're gonna get focused on that, and we'll get back to you on certain details.
Yeah, just like a real.
No answers. And actually, no sympathies for Markwayne Mullin, but this guy had this stuff tossed at him right then, and he has no idea what he's getting involved in. He doesn't know what he's doing with the Department of Homeland Security. He doesn't know what he's supposed to do with the Department of Homeland Security. He probably just now heard of the Department of Homeland Security this week because he's an idiot, in case you guys didn't remember that. He's an effing idiot. But there has been times that he's been giving signals as to the reason why Donald Trump should probably hire him in this position, because he's, he has this propensity to drop to his knees and do everything that Donald Trump tells him to do. It's the perfect resume for being in this administration. This is the way he feels about what was going on during these killings of people like Alex Preddy, that apparently Fox News wants us to think is the reason why she was fired. But this was Markwayne Mullin's opinion on it.
Way for what? For the federal officers to do their job? I mean, tell me what crime the ICE is doing other than doing their job by getting those that the Biden administration let in by the tune of over 10 million individuals off our streets, and the criminals that are sometimes very violent criminals off our streets.
If Kristi Noem was fired over celebrating and calling Alex Preddy, Renee Good, and everyone else that they've murdered domestic terrorists, but then Markwayne Mullin went on TV and said, what else is ICE doing except for their jobs? And then Donald Trump taps him to then be the next Department of Homeland Security secretary. I feel like he's okay with him saying that none of that matters about all the murders of people in the streets, the militarized zones in our streets. What he needs is a bloodthirsty, egotistical, dumb person to run this agency, because that's the job requirements. Here's a flashback. He's showing all of his credentials.
Like he's self-made. Sir, I wish you was in the truck with me when I was building my plumbing company. Myself and my wife was running the office, because I sure remember working pretty hard and long hours. Pretends like he's self-made. What a clown. Fraud. Always has been, always will be. Quit the tough guy act in these Senate hearings. You know where to find me. Any place, anytime, cowboy. Sir, this is a time, this is a place. If you want to run your mouth, we can be two consenting adults. We can finish it here.
Okay, that's fine. Perfect.
You want to do it now?
I'd love to do it right now.
Well, stand your butt up then.
You stand your butt up.
Oh, hold on.
Big guy.
Oh, stop it.
Is that your
All right.
solution, every
Hold it. No, sit down. Sit down.
Okay.
You know, you're a United States Senator. Sit down.
Actively.
Oh, okay.
Sit down, please.
All right.
Can I respond? Mr.
Hold
Chairman?
it. Hold it. If
Hold
we
on.
can't, no,
This is
I have
what
the
he
mic.
said.
I'm sorry.
This is
Hold
what
it.
he said.
You'll have your time.
Okay.
Can I respond?
Oh, no, you can't. This is a
That's the credentials of Markwayne Mullin. Markwayne Mullin was trying to start fights with that union leader in the middle of a Senate hearing. You get your butt up right now. I'll fight you right now, bro. I can't believe you insulted me on Twitter. Man, did you know what losers these guys are? Hey, let me give you guys a little bit more of his credentials, the reasons why Donald Trump wants him to replace Kristi Noem at DHS. Here he is, standing in the halls of Congress, telling this story from 1890, about his journalist, Charles Kincaid, and how he killed his former congressman, William Talby. On these very steps, there's history right under Markwayne Mullin's feet, but he got a completely different message from that interaction that he's telling us here.
Kincaid got mad, went home, got a gun. As they were coming down the stairs, Kincaid decided he had enough and shot the former congressman in the face. This where this blood is. You can see the stains still on the stairway. 11 days later, the former congressman passed away from his wounds. Kincaid pleaded not guilty and was found innocent. Now, There's a lot we could say about reporters and the stories they write, but I bet they would write a lot less false stories, as President Trump says, fake news, if we could still handle our differences that way. Kincaid got mad.
In one of his earlier attempts to kiss Donald Trump's ass, calling any journalist that Donald Trump deems spreading fake news, which is everything that's truthful, Markwayne Mullin compared that story of a journalist. Think how backwards this dumbass was talking. A journalist killing a former congressman on those steps. The blood stains are still there. And he took that story to think about how journalists, so I guess similar to the one who killed that congressman, journalists maybe wouldn't write fake news as much if we went about the same types of ways of handling our disputes by murdering journalists. Maybe that was part of it. He's stupid. He's bloodthirsty. He doesn't really know the difference between one story and the next. Donald Trump was like, man, I'm really excited about this guy. He's got everything. Man, the guy's got it all. And when it comes to potentially this confirmation process, which, man, if they start getting on his ass in these hearings, I think we're going to have a lot of stupid sound bites. But one of those people that's not going to get on his ass is John Kennedy.
But the president, when he called me Tuesday night, the night of the hearing, when he was mad as a murder hornet, he asked me what I thought about Markwayne, and I said, A, I like him. B, he's very smart. C, he's a very good businessman. And D, if I didn't believe the three things I just told you, I'd lie to you because Markwayne would whip my ass. But
he's smart. So Donald Trump apparently went to this dummy, and his endorsement of Markwayne Mullin that he's really smart. I like him, and if I didn't say all this stuff about him, he'd whip my ass. Wait, I feel like it's like, unhinged, like that's detached from your emotions enough that if somebody says something you don't like about them, they're gonna whip your ass, even though you guys agree on kissing Donald Trump's ass. The only thing they fight over is which ass cheek each of them gets at the same time. Like one gets the left, other gets the right, or maybe they switch over in the middle. Who knows? It doesn't really matter. They want to make sure everyone knows that that's their role. But really the big thing that stuck out about this, John Kennedy said that he's smart. I like him, and he's not smart. He's very smart. He's so smart that when he was talking to Linda McMahon, the education secretary or something like that, this department that she's dismembering, this is how smart Markwayne Mullin is.
And what was we ranked in reading and math in 1979?
I'm sorry, what?
What was we ranked nationally in math and reading in 1979?
Excuse me, what? Wait, what the fuck did you just say? What was we ranked in reading and math in 1979? What was we ranked, bro? But John Kennedy says he's a smart guy. And at the same time, Sean Hannity said to John Kennedy the other day, I wish I had your brains. Man, none of these guys have any clear thoughts, but they all want to be each other's dummies. From one dummy to the next to the third dummy, they all envy each other's stupidity. Here he is, Markwayne Mullin again, and all of his smarts, trying to talk about the reasons why they went into this war with Iran. Listen about his misspoke.
Are there measures being taken not to eliminate other possible alternatives to leadership?
This is war, and we're taking out the threat. And if you're part of the threat, then you're a target. What we call not all the arrows, but going after the archers.
You'll concede this is war. You'll concede this is war.
We haven't declared war. They declared war on us, but we haven't.
War. Secretary Hicks said.
We haven't declared.
Just now you said this is war.
They called it war.
They called it war. What I was saying. Okay, well that was a misspoke. What I was saying that they've declared war on us, but
after being caught in a lie, that was a misspoke. What was we ranked? This guy's from Oklahoma. I'll let you guys search up the education rankings for Oklahoma, since he's asking what we was ranked in reading and in math in 1979. So I guess he's got John Kennedy's vote. John Kennedy's all on board, even though he was a part of nailing down Kristi Noem to make sure that she gets her ass fired for exposing Donald Trump. But not only John Kennedy, but one other John. U.S. Senator John Fetterman posted this after the news of that dum-dum, Markwayne Mullin, getting this opportunity to get, roasted in a confirmation hearing. He wrote, as member of the Homeland Security Committee and ranking member of a subcommittee on border security, this is him. I'm not sure how many fellow Democrats will vote to support our colleague Markwayne Mullin as the next DHS secretary, but I am I. He's voting in the affirmative because John Fetterman wants to make sure. You notice how he worded that. John Fetterman, the first thing he pointed out was that his fellow Democrats probably, I'm not sure why he's saying that, but his fellow Democrats will probably not support Markwayne Mullin. And I think many of them actually will, but he will. He wants to separate himself as many chances as he can to let people know I'm not like any other Democrat. Matter of fact, I'm the dumbest one possible. I'm the one that's going to openly tell you guys, despite all the things we're looking in front of our faces, no matter all the pressure and the times that we're seeing people turning on this horrific fascist president, now is the time when I'm going to flip and be so hardcore in favor of everything he does. Okay, bro. That's on you. I feel like he doesn't want to be in the Senate anymore. I feel like that's actually his objective, because I don't think he's going to win any re-elections whenever that comes up. So I feel like the confirmation part is going to be the next fun step, only because we're going to see how stupid Markwayne Mullin is, but that doesn't mean he's not going to get confirmed. I'm not going to hold my breath on any of that. We'll see how that goes. But at least Kristi Noem is gone. And, maybe Markwayne Mullin will give us some more fun sound bites and appearances. Hopefully not too much more murder, but, we can't bet on anything these days. You could have bet that we'd be done right near the top of the hour. For those of you guys that hung on, it's only been 2 minutes. I appreciate you. I love you. Happy Friday. I hope you guys aren't too inebriated after you've been downing shots every time something stupid was relayed from all these people in our politics and our government during this hour. But I want you guys to enjoy your weekend. I'm going to try and do the same. I've got some things I've got to handle, things to get to. Hope you guys do the same. Rest up, enjoy yourselves. I'll see you guys on, again, the best damn day of the week, starting on Monday. We do it every day at noon. But for those folks who are overseas, as was given to us at the beginning of this stream by Sweden Dragon, it is daylight savings. We will be pushing that hour back here in the United States, pushing that hour back so we get an extra hour at the back end of our days. Apparently, all the shows will start earlier. It's good information. Glad you guys let us know. We'll see you guys later. Appreciate you. Love you.